Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily Inestroza. Today I'm going to be sharing advice on how to write a solid resume. And at the end of this video, I will be sharing a resume template. And this is the resume template that I use for my resumes to get internships and full-time job offers, so make sure you stay tuned till the end. So I'm going to split up the information into three main buckets. I will first talk about the formatting of the resume, then I'll talk about content, and then lastly, I'll talk about how to tailor your resume in order to get the job that you want. Alright, so let's get started with format. So the first tip that I have for formatting is that you need to pick a style that suits your needs. So for almost all jobs, resumes with black ink on a white sheet of paper will do the job. But there are some jobs in marketing or, for example, graphic design where your resume needs to have some color, some design that basically shows your artistic capabilities. So a regular resume will look like this, and then a marketing resume will look like this. So those are like the two different resumes. I personally have my resume with the classic black ink on white paper, and that resume has worked well for me. So the second tip I have is that your resume will need to be formatted depending on whether you're applying for an entry-level job or if you are an experienced hire. So if you are applying for an entry-level job, you're going to make sure that you begin with your education section at the top, and then you're going to have your experience, and then you're going to have your involvement, and then at the end you're going to have your skills. And you're going to want to make sure that your resume is no longer than one page. On the other hand, if you are an experienced hire, your resume should begin with the experience section, and then you'll go on with your education, and then your involvement and skills. And your resume should not be longer than 2 pages. Another note is that you're going to want to format your resume either in chronological or functional order. So for an entry-level job, most likely you'll have it in chronological order simply because you do not have a lot of experiences. But for an experienced hire, since you'll have plenty of job experiences, you'll probably want to organize it in a functional order in a way that is most relevant to the job that you are applying for. Now the third tip I have is in regards to fonts. So for your font style, you're going to want to use Times New Roman or Arial, just because those are the ones that are most used and just easy to read. You're also going to want to make sure that your font size is between 10 to 12 point font. You don't want to make it any more larger or smaller than that. And make sure to use bold, italics, or caps to kind of vary the font within your resume to make it easier to the reader and also to capture their eye to particular sections. Now the last piece of advice that I have in regards to your formatting is to be consistent. So by consistency, that means that you need to use the same font all throughout your resume, be consistent with your font sizes. So if your content section is going to be one font, stick with that in your other sections. You also want to make sure that you stick with bullet points. Avoid using any paragraphs, use the bullet point system. Having consistency all throughout your resume just makes it cleaner, more organized, and just easier to read for the person who's looking at your resume. Now, the second section of information that I will be sharing is your content. So let's begin with the header. For the name, I typically like to make the name just larger because it's just easier to read to know whose resume this belongs to. And then in regards to the contact information below it, I normally just only like to include my cell phone number, my email, and then the link to my LinkedIn profile. Now let's move on to the experience section. So for your bullet points, you're going to want to follow this formula for writing your points. So make sure you pay close attention. So you're first going to want to include an action verb, and then you're going to add your task, and then lastly you're going to add how you did it, why you did it, or what the result was. So this formula will be how you will be writing each bullet point for your experience section. And I think this formula is just super easy. It just helps you draft out what you should say, and also so what you're saying is meaningful and impactful. You want to do your best to include an action verb at the beginning of every single bullet point in your resume. And you also want to try your best to use a different action verb. And this just creates variation and also just shows that you have different skills and did different things. You also have to keep in mind that your experience section is not a job description. If you're a barista at Starbucks, you're not just going to say that you made coffee and serve them to customers. No. The purpose of your experience section is to highlight what you've learned, what your accomplishments were, and how you added value to that organization or company. So wherever possible, you're going to want to quantify your information because numbers capture the eye. Some of the value-based metrics that you can use are revenue generated, time saved, number of customers you served, how you increased operational effectiveness, and so much more. So you want to include these figures, include percentages, and these numbers will just further highlight the accomplishments and the value that you added. Next, for the education section, if you attended a college or university, you're going to want to include the name of the university along with the degree that you received or are working towards. You can also include any minors, any emphasis, the GPA, include the date that you graduated or your anticipated graduation date. Other bullet points that you can mention include relevant coursework, awards, or scholarships. And then one important thing that you want to make sure you do not do is do not include any high school information. High school is such a long time ago. You are now an adult. That is irrelevant. The only reason why you would ever include any high school information is if you are a college freshman and have little to no experience at all. Now, the next section is skills. And what we mean by skills is hard skills only. So that includes any languages, softwares, social media, any licenses or certification. You want to avoid using soft skills at all costs because those are just very subjective and you want to use more objective skills that you have. For me personally, I also like to include my interests. So for this section, I like to label it skills and interests. So after I include my skills, I'll also include any small pieces of information that is interesting about me. Now, the last section that I will be discussing is involvement, and this may or may not apply to you depending on whether or not you are involved. But this section includes any extracurricular involvement, if you do any community service, if you're a part of any organization, or if you hold any leadership roles. This section would be a great way to highlight those soft skills that you may have. And in regards to writing out these bullet points, you want to apply the same formula that we use in the experience section with the action verb, the task, and how, why, or what the result was. Overall, just make sure to keep your resume short, sweet, and to the point. Just remember that recruiters literally look at your resume for less than 10 seconds. If anything, they skim it. So just make sure to include information that is valuable and that you think will qualify you to get that job. The last thing I will be discussing today is how to tailor your resume to get the job that you want. So the first thing you need to do is to determine what the company values most, or what specifically they are looking for in that role that you are applying for. So this is where you want to look at the job description. Pay attention to what responsibilities they are mentioning first. Are there any requirements or qualifications? And do you notice any themes or soft skills that are being mentioned, such as teamwork or leadership? After you've gathered what the most important things are that the company is looking for, you're going to want to match your experience content with the job description. So this is where you're going to include any keywords. For example, in the job description, if they say that they want a person who can strategize marketing plans, then in your job experience, if you had a related marketing role, then you're going to want to include, strategize marketing campaigns. So you're going to want to pick out those keywords and include them in your resume. And do your best to put those keywords into your most recent or relevant experience, since that will be one of the first things that the recruiter will see when looking at your resume. Now, the next thing is to provide evidence. So you don't just want to say, strategize marketing campaigns. You're going to want to show proof that what you did was actually valuable. So you're going to want to say, strategize marketing campaigns to promote an event that increased participation by 40%. You don't just want to say that you have that skill, but you want to exemplify that skill. Be specific. Include any facts, figures, or any examples where you highlighted that particular skill. Now, the next thing that you will need to do is to reorganize your resume. So this is where you will want to change, add, or remove any things. So you added the keywords, you showed examples, but now you kind of want to reorganize it. Those bullet points where you included keywords, you're going to want to move them to the top of that particular job experience. So move things around in order to make your skills more visible, and that'll just make it easier for the recruiter to see that you have the skills that they are particularly looking for. Now, the last thing you're going to want to do is review everything. So put your resume side by side by the job description and put yourself in the shoes of the recruiter. Do you think that you would be a good fit? Do you have the appropriate skills? Do you sound convincing? So ask yourself these questions and just kind of test yourself. See if you think your resume truly makes you qualified for this job that you are applying for. Alright, so by following these steps, hopefully you will be able to tailor your resume to fit that job role that you want. I hope that all of the things that I discussed today can be helpful in creating or revising your resume. In the description of this video, I have included a link to a Google Drive that will take you to the resume template that I've been using to create and format my resumes. So feel free to check that out or to make a copy to your drive so you can also use that resume template. I've also included some action verbs and everything is nicely formatted. You would only have to go in and replace your own information. But that's all I have for today. I hope this was helpful to you all. Let me know if you apply any of these tips or if you found them helpful. Give me a like if you enjoyed this video and make sure to subscribe if you want to watch more videos provided by me. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in my next video.